This is going to be an unedited video walking you around the 2004 Peterbilt truck that I'm going to sell. Let me point this out right here. This is what happens when you don't put the landing gear all the way down and you pull out from it without releasing your airbags. So it drops the whole frame assembly down so you can pull out safely from without doing this. And this happened twice. It was not with me, it was with another driver. I've dropped thousands of trailers, but never had that happen. While I'm back here, those are 2 Teflon plates I just put on. It's June the 14th. Just put those on. It's the 3rd time I put them on. Because if you don't grease it, when you go under a truck, even though they're designed not to be greased, they won't last a little over a year. That's about, maybe even a year. Now, on this side right here, I put a new Michelin tire. And this one is a new Yokohama tire. I just spent about $800 working on the APU, air conditioning only, and it works. Gotta have to check it again before when I go back to Omaha. I'm actually up here in Pembina, North Dakota. Taking off this side right here to get out the fuel tank, which I had to have welded and repaired. And let me tell you why. As you look underneath here, you need to double check this thing right here. It's got to be tight or it bangs against the fuel tank and will cause a leak eventually. Front tires are probably 70%. This is Yokohama. I like Yokohama's RY 617s. Now to bring you over here, I wanted to point out one thing, which is this thing right here. This is a high pressure sensor for your air conditioning. And if the fan stays on all the time, that thing needs to be replaced. I replaced it about 4 times. New alternator, new serpentine belt. I have a spare one, comes with a truck. And there's one other important thing I need to tell you, because my driver threw a bunch of crap right here. There's a little valve, you put it, you move it. You can barely see it, but it's right here, right underneath the alternator. There's kind of that needs to be turned on if you want heat. I have it off for the summer because I don't want any heat. This little valve right here, right where my finger is. Look where the alternator bolt is, and it's right underneath here. And just needs to be moved forward. This had an overhaul 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago in July. Now another thing I've done is replaced these bolts, these U-bolts. Put new ones on both front. And this one I had to put a new wheel bearing. It just had a little slop on it. So I put a new wheel bearing on it. Make sure that when you grease the truck, you grease there, and there's 2 in the back there. Because it catches and you can feel it. Sometimes these guys at who service the truck do not do well. Okay, right up here, hopefully you can see that. This is a cleanable air filter. And you use a special oil. So, or you can get rid of it. It's about $250. So it's about 5 times what a normal one costs. Leaving this on here, this is for OPS bypass filter, which I have not hooked up. Check that. That's your power steering fluid. There's your reservoir for your water. And make sure you don't have any cracks in your fan. I've had that happen and it went through the radiator, which I've replaced the radiator twice now. So, because it had a crack, it spun off and went right through the radiator. And that's not fun. So, I replaced those bolts too, right there. Let's see, walk around, what else? Oh, the door got sprung right here. That's what happens if you get caught in a 60-mile-an-hour wind and you let the door go. It shuts fine, but you can get that serviced at a body shop if you want to. I've put up with it. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, I've got a 1500 watt pure sine wave inverter in here. Right there. You can see all my stuff on here. It comes with extra hoses, extra pigtail. The flies are getting me. That's why you don't wear shorts up here. Batteries underneath here, and you got two that are deep cycle and two regular ones. The deep cycler I have the inverter hooked up to. There's a switch in there you turn off. And again, this is a new Yokohama tire I just put on yesterday. And this Michelin tire has about 10,000 miles on it. Other than that, it's almost new. Should get about 250,000 miles out of these tires. That's what they're kind of designed for. And I couldn't find my straps to finish securing that. I must have them in Omaha in my van. Don't have them here, so I couldn't finish that. But put a new, had the chains on there, and the catwalk that came with it just had a bowl in it. So I decided to take that off. Other than that, just pull that for the fifth wheel, and don't forget to grease it. You don't take a lot of grease, and it starts cutting into the Teflon, and it just eats it away. And I replaced that last year, and my other driver never greased it, so it didn't even last a little over a year. And that is about it with this truck. It's been a very good truck. At 660,000 miles, had a clogged oil, and it bent the crankshaft, and I had to put a remanufactured engine in it. And C13 is a Caterpillar engine, and it's the first year that they made the Assert. And the Assert was 2 turbos, low pressure, high pressure, so they didn't have to put an EGR in it. So it's actually never had any problem with the turbos. I've had a problem with replacing the injector, but on the old engine, I did a lot of work to the old engine, but it didn't do any good. It needed to be replaced. And I'll give you the exact date, but this engine was put on at 660,000, and I had a leaking head, and so I just had them do a platinum overhaul, which had a 2-year unlimited mile warranty on it, which had expired last July. But I haven't had any issues with the engine, and I will give you the mileage. I'll write it in what the mileage is on the engine. But that is all for now.